This video is sponsored by Alpha Draft, where you can play fantasy esports such as Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Link in the description box below if you'd like to. They also produce a podcast called By the Numbers with me and Richard Lewis, where we talk about everything that's going on in competitive Counter-Strike. Usually I have a link in the description box below. There'll be a new episode tonight, actually, so I'll go back and retroactively put that VOD in there when it's out. Now, ESL just announced some of the details for the ESL ESEA Pro League Invitational, which is taking place in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. And upon knowing some of the details, it's another scenario where obvious criticisms are going to be placed upon ESL for decisions they've made and things that just aren't satisfactory for the kind of other quality tournaments that we have out there in Counter-Strike Global Offensive now. So this is a 250k tournament, great. It's right up there with the majors. It's right up there with the other ESL, ESEA, the actual Pro League it had itself, the proper Season 1. There was 6 teams originally were invited, and that was going to be basically NIP, Virtus Pro, Fnatic, Envious, TSM, and Cloud9. So the top 5 teams according to their... Let me think, was it actually... Let me think... I wonder if Virtus Pro was in that. Whoever it was the top 5 European teams in that, well, top 5 ranked teams in their ranking, the ESL ranking, and then Cloud9 is the top NA team. And they expanded it it wasn't TSM, that's right. And then they expanded it now to 8 teams previously, that was already done. They added TSM, who everyone wanted because they were obviously a top 5, but their ranking didn't have them in the top 5. We've already been into all those issues in a past video. And Titan was the other team they invited. Now, at this point, now we've got the groups have been drawn. And first and foremost, before we even get into who's in what group, they're best of 1 groups. It's a double limb GSL style best of 1 group. Now, I don't know about you, but I've had this issue. I've brought this issue up many times. Best of 1 groups it's one thing if you're doing that in 2013. We're past that now. We've got tons of events using best of 3 groups. We've seen best of 3 groups repeatedly. At the major, we had these issues with best of 1 groups where teams like Cloud9 went out over a single map, and that's like a big issue, obviously. And so no one wants best of 1 groups as far as I know. I don't know players that want them. I know fans don't want them. The only people I know who want them to a degree is organisers who think they have time constraints. Now, beyond that, there's also the factor that they've managed with their draw to get the top 3 teams in the world in my rankings into 1 group, Group B. So, one thing I will say before I move on is that one thing they did add, though, is that the final is best of 5, which I think is really good, and that's something I do want, and that even the major doesn't have. So that's great to have best of 5 final. DreamHack doesn't have best of 5 final. They still have best of 3 finals, so that's a step up. Now, to get into this, essentially, the biggest problem that we're going to have to put into this, and this is why I didn't call this Criticising ESL, ESEA Pro League Invitational in Dubai. I call it Criticising ESL, because a lot of these problems are systemic and endemic to ESL themselves because of their mentality towards how they treat the community, how they treat the game, and their kind of inability to even learn from trial and error, to improve upon what they're doing. Instead, they just find ways to blame what happened. So, same problems that we've had in the past. Best of 1. Now, remember, at the major, and at past majors where it's been best of 1, ESL constantly, without, apparently, I guess it would be bad PR to just outright come out and be like, Valve forces us to do this, we don't want it, we think it's really bad, but Valve makes us do it, and we have to do it because we want money. So instead, what they do is they constantly, through tweets, through subtweets, they're not mentioning it directly, but constantly giving the illusion that, well, how do you know why we have to do best of 1? Maybe we don't make the choice. Well, do we set the formats for majors? They've constantly tried to give us the impression that they don't have a choice here, that Valve sets the terms and they're like, we want best of 1, we don't want best of 3 groups, and this is why it's going to be. And so if ESL hosts the major, despite the fact they're doing everything at the major to a degree, that it's not their choice, it's out of their hands. Now, that's one thing. Listen, my approach to that was like, okay, I can accept that if that's the case. I still think there should be pushback against Valve, but this event here, now here's the problem, because this event, fuck all to do with Valve. This isn't a major. This has nothing to do with Valve. There's no Valve to blame. There's no Valve to deflect this onto now. There's only ESL decides this. And so in this particular scenario, we have to ask 3 possible scenarios here. 1, they were lying before when they said Valve forced them to do best of 1s for the majors. And they did them themselves anyway, and they didn't explicitly state that they couldn't choose to do best of 1s. That's the problem with doing a vague thing there. Now it looks like now we don't know that you ever were denying that you could have done best of 3s there. Or they do want to do best of 3s, but Now they can't because of a problem they've created, which is something I'm going to get into. So I'll get into that in a minute. As far as I can tell, these groups must be randomly seeded, because even if when I went and looked at ESL's own ranking system, it wouldn't be possible to get these groups using a normal seeding system, using their ranking system. So I'm assuming these are randomly drawn groups. Now, when people do randomly seeded groups, people like ESL, whenever you say this is a really bad system, look at the results, this is a ridiculous sort of group here, what people like that will always say, they didn't in this particular case, but what they will tend to say is something along the lines of like, well, what seeding system should we use? Or you can criticize any seeding system, that sort of a thing, right? And what they're doing there is drawing a false equivalency between all possible seeding systems. So what they're essentially suggesting is, unless you have a perfect seeding system beyond any sort of reasonable criticism, then the best possible seeding system you can come up with is as good as the worst seeding system. There's no difference, because since both can be criticized, we're not even scaling or looking at the proportion of what criticism it is or how serious it is. This can be criticized the best, the worst can be criticized. Therefore, there's an equivalency, they are the same. Therefore, it doesn't matter if we use the worst one, why should we use a better one? So when people say use Thorin's ranking or use a different ranking or use your own fucking ranking, and they say, but you can criticize anything, that doesn't actually work. That logically is a fallacy there. And it's actually disingenuous. Either they don't understand that or they're trying to make you think that. Now, the reason why I say the worst possible system is because here's the thing. Random seeding is literally the worst possible system. Now, what I mean by that is random seeding doesn't contain any seeding within it. Now, they'll tell you they didn't seed. Well, we didn't seed, we just randomly drew it. Well, you did then. You used random seeding, that means. Now, here's the analogy, the metaphor to understand why random seeding is so terrible, okay? So imagine Thorin comes along and he sits down with these 8 teams and he puts them in order. He goes Fnatic number 1, Na'Vi number 2, TSM number 3. He goes down the list like this and he has the 8 teams. And then he says, right, here's my seeding. I'd suggest you make the groups from them. And you go, okay, well, number 1, Fnatic here. Number 2, Na'Vi in the other group. Number 3, TSM in Na'Vi's group. Number 4, I think it's Cloud9. They'd be in Fnatic's group. Even if you disagreed with my seedings, it would at least be impossible for something like TSM to be in Na'Vi's group, in Fnatic's group. That couldn't happen. So whether you agreed that TSM should be 2 or 1, it doesn't matter. At least they could never be in this one. So I'd at least be on an area that almost everyone would agree with. Now, likewise, say we got a whole bunch of experts in. Thorin, Lurpis, hey, let's get some people from ESL in. D-Man, I don't know who the fuck else from there. Pansy, Jason Kaplan. Say we got all of us in a room and we all said, right, we're all 5 of us going to argue until we come to some sort of vague consensus as to where these teams should be seeded. Even if D-Man said, I think TSM should be number 2 instead, or he had said, I think Envious should be number 4 instead. And even if it went like this, and eventually to get the number 8, to get the 8, we had to make some concessions, we would never end up in a world, right, where Fnatic was 8th. And we'd never end up in a world where Titan was number 1. We'd never end up in a world where NIP was number 2. Us experts, no matter what they disagree with, we'd at least get close to a realistic set of seedings. We'd never be in a scenario where it was totally terrible. Yet random seeding allows that, because here's the thing. So Thorin makes all his lists like that. We make the other list like that in terms of D-Man, all the rest of collective committee lists. Let's get these 2 lists, okay? Imagine that instead of a list, it's like I've put the cards in order. So number 1 card, Fnatic, number 2, etc. We've got the cards in order. Now imagine that as you pick up all the cards in order, you trip over and you knock them and they all just go randomly on the floor. And then someone says, hey, let me pick those up for you. But since the cards aren't in order, they just pick them up off the floor. And so whatever the first card is, they pick that up. Whatever the second card is, they pick that up. What if at the end, they then said, I'm just going to use this seeding system. And you go, what do you mean, the seeding system I created? No, when I was picking them up off the floor, I'm just going to use that seeding system. Be like, well, that isn't seeding, though. You just picked them up off the floor. Like, any card could be top. The Titan could be number 1 there. Well, yeah, that's what I'm going to use. Well, that's not a good system. Yeah, but your system, I might not agree with one of the placings on it. There we go. If that isn't game over, that metaphor there, you're probably not someone who can be debated with on this topic in terms of random seeding. Now, in this system, they have 3 of the top 4 in their own ranking in one group, which is Group B. They have the number 1 seed, the number 3 seed, and the number 4 seed. Now, in any normal way of seeding the 2 groups, even in their own system, it would be impossible for the number 3 seed to be in Group 1. They should be in Group 2, in the other group with seed number 2. So Envious is in Group A, Number 3 seed should be in Group A with Envious by their own system, if they used even their own ranking as a seeding system, which apparently it looks like they didn't. Meanwhile, so number 1, 3, and 4 of the ESL ranking are in Group B. In Group A, 5, 6, and 7 are all in Group A. How fucking ludicrous is this? And in my system, my ranking, 1, 2, and 3 are in Group B. So you can see how completely out of whack this is. Now, when you bring up these particular issues with them, best of 1, we want best of 3, random seeding, it's always the same approach with ESL, which is that they blame the venue, they blame outside constraints like, oh, at this particular venue we have to kick people out at a certain time of day, or we could only get this venue for 2 days, or in this venue, like, oh, we have to travel to get to the, whatever it might be. They blame everything else. Now, the biggest problem is, first and foremost, if these problems exist, why do we only ever hear the reasons for the problems and the problems themselves after the fact? Why do we only hear once we complain? If it's no problem, if you didn't do anything wrong, if this is all to plan and everything's as it should be, you're not to be blamed whatsoever, you're beyond reproach, just tell us straight up front. Make it in the press release, like, and for specific time restraints, because actually it's very difficult with this venue here, which is the only one that was available. We can only have best of 1, but we still think that's a good compromise to be able to have a big tournament like this. They don't do that. What they do is just announce it, and then when you criticise, they sort of sit back like, yeah, well, maybe you don't know why I have to do it that way. It's like, that's not getting us anywhere, is it, mate? That's not productive. And actually, that attitude makes people dislike you even more. That makes them beyond what they're criticising, which is very reasonable. And you yourself, since you haven't given anyone the fucking information, what, you can't yourself put yourself in their shoes and see that without the information you have, how are they supposed to come to a conclusion? And then to try and imply, as they always do, that someone like me who criticises them, well, it's actually, I'm obligated to contact ESL to ask them why they've A, fucked up and done a terrible system, B, not listened to what people have asked for them, and C, what possible extenuating factors there could be. No. Sorry, mate. It's your job to communicate to us, the community, why you've done this, why you didn't listen to the past scenarios, and what possible extenuating circumstances are. It's not up to me to go and find out and ask from you, and then don't, by the way, throw in some bullshit like, but you're a journalist. Yeah, I'm not your slave, mate. I'm not, you're not my boss. You're not my editor telling me I have to go and do this story. I choose what I do as a journalist, and I don't make some claim that I break every story about stuff to do with fucking tournament organisation. I'm not even that type of journalist. That's like someone being an author and you'd be like, oh, you should, what, you don't like the way that's written? You should write it then. Well, I don't even fucking write in that field, mate. I write a historical fiction or something, you know. So, yeah, that's ridiculous. Now, when it comes to these constraints, the problem with that as well is the logical aspect doesn't work, because they always make it sound like everything was set, and at the end they came in and they were like, oh, I'd love to have best of 3, but I can't. Why not? Because like in this country that we've got it in, we can only do it there. This city we've got it in, this is the only place we could do. Or this venue that we're doing, that's like the only one we could use. And then so it makes you sort of be like, okay, who chose the country? You? Yeah, okay. Who chose the city? You. Who chose the venue? You. And who chose like the days it would be booked on? You. And who chose the format then to use within the? You. So you. Let's see, A, B, C, D. You were involved in every single decision. You made all the decisions, yet you now don't want any of the blame or responsibility, and now you're blaming every other external factor that you essentially chose to allow to influence this particular scenario. Pick a different country, pick a different city, pick a different venue, pick all the different scenarios you want. In fact, hey, if you want to run an awesome event, which, by the way, you obviously think you are running an awesome event. That's why you don't mind any of these constraints. I'd work backwards. I'd reverse engineer. I'd go, right, well, I want to have best of 3 groups, best of 5 final, proper seeding. So first things first, what venues, what countries do you think we could host this in? Okay, here's a short list of 10 countries. Okay, cities, there's like 7, 8, 9 cities. Okay, we're going to need venues that we'd be able to hire for, say, 3 or 4 days so we could run these groups like this. Okay, we've got that there. Why is it never like that? Why is it always the last thing? That's part of what people are upset at, because it feels like you get the prize purse, you get the country, you get the venue, you get all of it, you hype it all up, and at the end you figure out like, oh, and what's the system we could use within this ridiculous, we've painted ourselves into a fucking corner here. Now how do we escape? Oh, we can't. Well, it's not my fault. It's paint all on the floor, isn't it? You're the one who painted it in. Yeah, but how could I know that? I was just painting that, you know, like, once I'm in the corner, what can I do with that? But well, just don't do it next time. Well, it's easy to criticise now, isn't it? You haven't painted a fucking floor before. Like, This isn't even a reasonable way to behave if you're a huge company. And remember, by their own merits, they think this is an awesome event. They think within what the constraints they're doing, they do an awesome job. So why so insecure? Why so defensive about it? You think it's awesome, right? Then go ahead, explain to us why it's awesome and that you've done everything right and that within the constraints you did everything you possibly could have done and you've nailed it completely. I mean, what I wonder about in terms of the idea that you have to do it in this sense, I will say, it is interesting that they are now trying to vaguely allude to the fact that maybe the reason why they have all these constraints is because to have 250k and to have it in Dubai, notice the vague way you're bringing these things up. Well, we have to do it this way. Oh, okay, so you can't get that money unless it's in Dubai then. Is that the case? Well, go ahead and tell us that directly then. You can't get that money and have it in Dubai unless it's in this venue. Well, again, you chose that to be in Dubai. Now, it's interesting if we can't have the money and do the tournament. Personally, I don't give a fuck about the tournament, the money, mate. I just care about the tournament. Like, Gfinity has a better format than you. And as long as they have really good teams, they could play an identical tournament, give away less money, and it wouldn't change my life whatsoever. Now, it's nice that the players can get a lot of money. Yeah, sure. And I'd like things to be good for them in that sense. But the money isn't then be all and end all for me. I mean, apparently it is for ESL. You get the money, you put it up, you host the tournament, you fucking put up scaffolding, you put on a screen, you invite people in the venue, you play the games. At the end, they go away. And this is the problem. Nothing changes. So it feels like you're trying to put on the biggest event for the smallest cost possible with the least actual effort put into making it really good. And then after the fact, rather than ever fix things and change things and take on community criticism, you just like attack other people when they actually criticize you on perfectly valid topics, by the way, and don't even address the topics. Like just make these vague passive aggressive things of like, oh, well, you don't know why I'm doing that, do you? Well, no, I don't. So that's not a case that you don't have to answer. Then there's also the scenario, okay, that why don't other orgs run into these problems? Now, I will say other orgs aren't putting on 250k tournaments, true. But again, that's not the primary quality for me. I like the other tournaments because they choose the same venue, because they choose the same city, because they choose a circuit and decide in advance how many days they're going to have and all the rest of it. They can run the format they want to. So why don't other orgs get the same vitriol that ESL does when they get criticised? Because people criticise other orgs, but they never get this level of vitriol attached to it, do they? It's because of the way ESL treats us, the community, when we bring up these problems. So MLG and Gfinity heard about these problems where people didn't like that it was best of one group stages, people criticised a lot of the issues. What do you think they did? They just took it all on board. They thought, have they got a good point here? And when they thought they did have a good point, immediately changed it, even said to people in public, like, yeah, you've got a good point there, actually, we probably should change that for the next event, changed it, and as a result, people love these companies. So MLG changed CEVO LAN to actually be best of 3 in the group stage, best of 5 final. Gfinity promised that from now on it would be best of 3 groups all the time, and they made their seasonal events best of 3 groups, best of 5 final. There's also Gfinity, when they first held that first Gfinity G3 in CSGO in August of 2014, that event had massive problems. All these fucking delays and showing stupid games of UK teams when like awesome teams were playing, like Fnatic and I forget who, iBad Power were playing at the same time. So all these problems they had, they didn't like attack people and go, oh, but you don't, and people getting kicked out at like 10 p.m. or whatever because the games ran over. They didn't attack the public and go, well, you don't know why it is. We've got time constraints. If we want to have big events with a lot of money in the UK, the Copper Box Arena, then maybe we have to do it this way. Instead, what they said the whole time was like, we're really sorry. We realise this is fucked up. Like, actually, now that you make this point, you got a very good point there. Next time, we'll make it different. We'll fix it. And event by event, they have fixed it as a result, and they've gotten better and better. All ESL does, blame others, complain at criticism, and then vaguely suggest that they might look into improving things, but then event after event, year after year, these things don't improve. And as a result, people feel, here's the thing, as a PR tool, you can one time go to people and go, oh yeah, well, we hear your concerns and we'll take it on board and the management will look at it and decisions will be made going forwards to try and improve the integrity of our sport and give people a whole bunch of fucking political spiel. But if you do that once, okay, that can placate them and you tricked them. You got them to think you're going to change something. They stop complaining. You do the same thing next time. Problem is, do that 5 times, and eventually people are just like, well, I don't believe you. I don't trust you. I'm sorry. And then they find out some shit like this thing where you're hosting best of ones. Valve isn't even involved. And they're like, oh, so you were essentially lying or giving off a disingenuous sense so that I'd think that you were telling the truth here, but actually you were involved somehow anyway. So as a result, people, it's that whole thing of like, you can skin a sheep. You can shear a sheep many times, but skin it only once. So if you fuck with us completely, well, then no one's going to trust you ever again. Now, here's the thing. I'll give you a great example. DreamHack have a lot of the same problems ESL has. Their events are best of one group stage. They have a best of three final. They use random seeding. Why don't people treat DreamHack with this vitriol? Why don't people get angry at DreamHack? First of all, you don't see DreamHack out there tweeting back at people. You don't see DreamHack firing fucking volleys back at people, passive-aggressively making allusions to vague things that are making... DreamHack just do their fucking events. They go out there, they do the event. They don't even actually interact that much. They do it. They maybe say some things. They always own up to their own shit, by the way. If something's a certain way, it's because, well, we chose to have it that way. We actually think that's the best. These things are all fine. Again, ESL wants to think it's the best, think they've done the best, and then when you criticize it, to be like, well, it's not my fault. I don't decide it's that way. It's like, well, which is it? You can't have your cake and eat it, as the old saying goes, the old idiom, mate. Then there's also the factor that some of the stuff they said, I'd just keep your mouth shut and stuff like this. So there was one where this guy tweeted that, a guy who's one of the head people at ESL, tweeted Dubai will be more than just a tournament for the teams. We have some fun activities planned as they explore what the city has to offer. Great. I mean, it is an invitational, but I'd go ahead and take the invitational off and put exhibition on, because apparently it's not a proper tournament. You can't run best of three groups, but you can chauffeur people around the city to see Dubai. Again, I don't give a fuck if Zipnix gets to see Dubai, mate, and sees an awesome view. He's like, oh gosh, and it was desert before, was it? And then they built all this, and they think, oh, cool. Historical. I'm learning a lot of cultural information. I don't give a flying fuck, mate. I get if he's in the server and he gets enough chances to headshot people to properly be able to qualify for the playoffs of the tournament. That's what I care about. So again, what the fuck is the deal with this? When you say you've got time constraints, don't then tell us that you're doing some fucking leisure activities. If you want to run a real tournament, the primary quality should be the quality of the matches, having the best format you can, and giving the spectators a great show, not giving them just a mediocre kind of format that we've seen before. Then there was a tweet where they essentially suggested, it said, available stage time restricts the format we can have in Dubai. Again, you chose the stage, you chose the country, you chose the city. This is why we originally planned for 6 teams and best of 3 only. Oh, so it's our fault, is it? So when you told us, everyone was like, and by the way, no one ever asked you to have more than 6 teams. What we asked for was the right 6 teams. So you fucked up in the first place, invited the wrong 6 teams, as in you didn't invite TSM. Then, rather than just admit we fucked up, because obviously at that point in time you've already issued an invite to someone, so you can't really admit that. You tried to do a PR move to get it back, which is right, well, we're going to invite 2 more teams, including the team you want. Cool, we did it. But now that we've invited them, we didn't tell you this when we asked if you wanted that. But now it's totally your fault that we have to fuck up the whole format of the entire tournament now. Well, who would agree with that? Again, take some fucking responsibility, mate. You chose to do that, not us. We wanted TSM there. We didn't say we want the whole tournament fucked up. I mean, if you asked me, I would have fixed it in the first place. But if I really had a choice between 6 teams and best of 3 group stage, or 8 teams, TSM gets to come, and best of 1 groups, I'd choose TSM not to come. Love TSM, think they're the 3rd best team in the world, but I'd rather have a proper tournament for the other teams than ruin it all just so TSM and Titan can turn up and then fucking be chauffeured around Dubai yes, and would you like some sherbet, Zipnix? Ooh, sugary. I don't know. That's not even how he talks. So yeah. Again, it's mainly the attitude that ESL has. I mean, you can go point by point as I have, and it doesn't work on any level. But they're not willing to have reasonable debate about this, because at the end of the day, they think they're right. They're always right. They always have more information than you. They won't give you the information. You're supposed to come before them on groveling on your knees and, please, sir, why have you fucked everything up? Well, I'm glad you asked why, because it wasn't my fault, but I think all this is great. Okay, cool. I guess we'd all just cool with that, are we? So thanks to Overdraft for the money.